Finance Committee meeting at 6:03, calling it to order. First item on the agenda is ratification of votes, roll call for the April 8th capital hearing meeting. So I'll let Trish go ahead and call, and we'll all call their names, take a roll call, and we'll all affirm our decisions of prior meeting.
Wait a minute.
So I think it's, who was here? There was,
I think everyone was here the last time.
yeah.
Yes.
Now we just don't have Sammy.
Correct. So we need a motion to approve the capital hearing meeting of April 8th. The items that we all motioned and seconded, we need a roll call. So I'm calling for a roll call.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Second. All right, all in favor, aye. Trish, you want to call names?
Yep. Mr. Yule?
I affirm.
Mr. Yule says yes.
Yes.
Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon says yes. Miss O'Neill?
Yes.
Miss O'Neill says yes. Mr. Glispin?
Yes.
Mr. Glispin says yes. Miss Mazika?
Mazeka.
Mazeka.
Yes.
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
Thank you.
And Samantha Wozniak is absent tonight.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the April 8th meeting. If everybody had a chance to look at it, majority of it, of course, except for new and old business, was the items themselves. If anybody see anything that needs to be added or changed?
I didn't see anything.
If not, I'll give you all minutes. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Now, don't we have to do it the other way?
I think so.
Do we have to then call for a roll?
Every vote.
Every time, yeah,
Roll call.
we have to every time.
All right,
Yes.
so I'll let you call for a roll.
So What
Do this again.
did I do with my list? There it is. Mr. Yule?
Yes, in the affirmative.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill?
Yes.
Miss O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glispin?
Yes.
Mr. Glispin votes yes. And Miss Mazeka?
Yes.
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
Right. Next item on the agenda is the budget item. So you should have, Tricia's laid out the items by department, starting with the school department. These are the items that we've all reviewed and discussed in prior meetings. And this is the summation of those efforts. So I'll open it up. If there's any conversation or comments or discussion on each of these departments, and if not, then I'll call for a motion to approve. Second.
Wait a minute.
Starting with the school department, $18,578,000 and $578,363. That's does match what we had discussed and is on the budget. Is there any comments, thoughts, recommendations? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
One at a time.
Huh?
One at a time.
All the names.
We gotta do on every one of these?
Yep.
Yes.
I don't know. Can it just be done in mass?
Can it be done at the end of
At
this?
the end, we could do it.
Yeah, let's do it at the end.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, let's, okay. The Bay Path budget, $1,418,052. Any comments, thoughts, recommendations? That again mirrors what we discussed and were presented
You know,
in the prior.
I'm sorry. It just occurred to me on the school department, did that number change? You remember we talked about, you wanted them to go back and look at some electrical credits and stuff?
That,
Not that I know of.
it didn't change. They were unaware that there were some items with that green initiative that the town manager had.
I'm sorry I didn't think of it before. It just clicked in.
Yeah, in a grant that Justin was unaware of that probably would have a favorable impact on their budget going forward. depending on how she applied it, because she was looking at applying it to different buildings. I know there was one on the variable motors for the HVC system, was gonna save almost, I think, $30,000 annually in electric. There was a couple of LED retrofits at a couple of the schools that were gonna save another 30 to 60,000, depending on the school. But that's still in flux. I'm not sure what her thoughts are on where she's gonna sprinkle, for lack of a better term, that money, that grant money. But so at this point, the budget is what it is based on.
Okay. Got it. Okay, thank you.
You raise a good point. And I think at the end, I want to raise a point on how this virus is affecting 2020 from positively or negatively for all of us, the school departments, and where that money, if there is a savings, is going to be applied. Does it go to free cash? And how does the town manager, what's her thoughts process going forward on whether to put it in a stabilization, what we're going to do? So there's a lot of things going forward, similar to what you're talking about, which is the grant money that she's gotten. So
Sure.
I want to talk about that, put that on for new business going forward, because that's the discussion I think we need to have on what the impact of this is, favorably or unfavorably, with the town as a whole, coming out of 2020, going into 2021. So do I hear a motion on the $1,418,052 item for BayPath?
Move to approve.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moderator budget, $2,100. Again, that mirrors the budget that we've all discussed.
That's why I got him in the door.
No change in that $2,100. Any comments on that? Not, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
You don't sound, you sure, Joan, you're all right with that?
Yep, I said aye.
Okay, Selectmen's budget, and it's $52,945. Again, there's been no change in what we have in front of us. It's still that number.
Right.
So do I hear a motion to approve if there are no comments or discussion needed?
So
So-
moved.
Moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Town manager's budget, $446,998. Again, that has not changed.
Move to accept.
Motion to accept? Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Finance committee budget, $101,300. Again, that hasn't changed. Do I hear a motion to accept? if
So
there are no-
moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Now, the assessor's budget, the treasurer's budget, the accounting budget, and the informational budget are all highlighted in yellow. They collectively total the $1,173,951. And again, that does tie to the number that we had discussed and was presented to us. So if there are any questions, if not, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Next item is legal services, $90,000. If there are no questions regarding that item, do I hear a motion to approve?
A motion.
Okay, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is the HR personnel budget of $114,569. Do I hear a motion to approve if there's no comments or need discussion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item is town clerk, $235,207. Any comments or That hasn't changed either. That number remains the same as what we've discussed in the past, and that's on the budget that we reviewed. Any comments? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, next item is land management. And that, but just for conversation, that budget is prior to 270,000 of fees being applied to that budget stood at $396,335. After 270,000 were applied, that budget, and it's on our sheet, because I'm not, what we looked at, nets out to $126,335.
So that's the, oops, excuse me.
Where are those fees, Katie, coming from, that $270,000 to net that down? What's the source of that revenue for fees or funds?
So the 126,000 is the amount that's going to be raised by taxation. Am I correct?
Right,
Okay. And that's what we're approving. We're approving that amount.
right. We're approving that amount. My question
Okay.
is that amount was lowered by $270,000 in, I'm guessing, and that's what my question is, in fees. And I'm wondering
Right.
what fees they are and how are they derived? That's my only question.
Oh, that would be your building and plumbing and electrical and any of those fees that they take in.
Okay. As I know, town warrant has, I think, 800,000 that they can't exceed, that we're going to be looking at in subsequent another week or so. But so the 270, I guess, of that's coming from that 800,000. It's the max that the town can tap into from fees based on the warrant that's been proposed. So,
That's all that's-
any other-
John,
yes,
that's not necessarily correct, but it's somewhat correct. The building inspector revolving fund is one of those funds that we vote on a spending limit every year. It's a departmental revolving fund.
right,
On each year, the spending limit. However, the spending limit there's no further appropriation needed at that point. This is a separate appropriation. So the $160,000 is an appropriation that will be made at town meeting. And that is separate from the spending limit. That's from the building inspector fund. The Board of Health fund is $110,000 in the same thing. So
So,
separate.
and the combined, they total
appropriation.
7. Right,
I didn't hear what you said.
yes. 160 and 110, 27. I got it. Well, that was my question, and how this, and then whatever's left based on the max, I don't know, maybe the town manager can answer that question. What isn't that, the funds that are authorized to be raised at max level, of those funds that aren't applied, where does the residual, if they exercise maximizing the full amount for the warrant, where do those funds go? Do they go to local receipts? Do they go to stabilization? That's my question.
Specifically, which one are you referring to?
Well, under the warrant, there's $800,000 that the max that can be raised on these different funds.
So that's the spending limit for each one of those revolving funds.
Exactly, but the spending,
Yep.
let's for
That's just-
conversation's sake say we only spend half of that, 400,000.
It doesn't matter. It's just an authorization. It doesn't really mean anything else happens. It's just,
Well, my
the
question.
issue would
You're
be is if you either overspent the fund or if you overspent the spending limit, then you would be essentially you'd be illegally spending.
So hypothetically, if we were to authorize, if the town manager was given the warrant to authorize up to 800,000, let's say the town manager did so, but only applied 400,000, where would the other 400,000 go that she was authorized and did authorize? Where would that
It doesn't go or do anything. It's just an authorization. So let's say utilities revolving fund let's say it has, the spending limit is $400,000. Let's say we spend 200,000, the fund has $600,000. Good. We haven't overspent anything. We haven't spent the spending limit, and it's doesn't go anywhere. It's a fund. It's self-contained.
So it doesn't go to free cash? It can't.
No, that's general fund rolls to free cash. These are separate special revenue funds.
No, I understand that. I'm just I'm trying to understand the process here of authorization and, and then we don't, what's authorized isn't applied, where does the unapplied funds go to? And you're saying,
They stay in the account.
It's just an authorization. You cannot spend more than that. It doesn't even mean you have that much in the fund. So it's
Okay.
just,
all right.
it's
now-
just a technicality. It's just something we have to do under law. So you want to make sure you're authorizing at least enough of what you will spend. So for example, like that utilities revolving fund.
Right.
Spending limit was 100 or 200,000. And we realized with all of our credits, all of our solar credits, it wasn't enough. So we had to up that last year because we can't overspend, has been voted.
And you're not
And we
gonna-
also can't overspend the
Over
fund.
what you authorized, I got it. All right, so you're saying even though it's been authorized, if it's not been utilized and applied, it's a moot point, it doesn't go anywhere.
Stays in the fund.
I got it, stays in the fund.
Okay, good,
I got it, that was my question. You answered it, thank you.
good, excellent.
All right, so the $126,335 is what we've seen. If there are any other thoughts or comments on that line item, do I hear a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Memorial Hall is $87,018. Again, that's the same number that we've already discussed. It's been in prior meetings. Any
Mr.
comments?
Chairman, I'm so sorry. This is the town manager. I came on a little bit late. I just want to make sure that when you do your roll call, even though I see you in the gallery, this just happened recently where sometimes when the video is captured, it just shows one of you. And even while saying yes, you need to individually, John, ask each member, Joan, Arthur, Lauren, to say yes. Because here, because of remote participation, people may not see this gallery and they can't see and hear each one of your voices. I know you. And so every vote you take, whether it's the ratification or reauthorization or the capital items, I'm sorry to say you have to say each one of you aye. I'm so sorry. I just came on and I just wanted to make sure of that.
What we did, town manager, is we did it in mass we took, instead of going back through each capital item, we ratified our votes on the capital items in total, so to speak, without going through each line. And we called every person by roll, and they affirmed their decision to recommend the capital items at the end.
Okay.
We're gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna take our votes, and at the end of this, we're gonna have a roll call, and in mass, we'll approve what everybody voted on. So each one will affirm each one of these votes that they took in mass. So instead of doing them individually, a roll call on each line item. Does that meet criteria?
I would have said no, only because we've been told by legal counsel that every single vote has to be done by roll call. And I hate to have you come back again and do it one more time. I know what you're saying. You're reading through and saying in totality, if that were the case, for the other votes you took the last time individually, line by line, I would say that you should ratify that with a roll call vote. And even what you just did in terms of the revolving fund, even though it's not tied necessarily to what you may have done earlier, I would say on the safe side, yes, you should do a roll call. I know it's more roll calls than you would like, but it's just a matter of making sure that the public can hear each ratified vote that you took. And, I think it's not just open for interpretation. If it was one vote collectively and it was the bottom line, that would be one thing. But if you just made a motion and you just accepted that, I say that should be a roll call. That's what I would do.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
We'll go back to the first item, which was the school budget of $18,578,363. And I'll call for a roll call on that item. Trish?
Mr. Yule?
Yes?
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is the BayPath budget, $1,418,052.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Selectmen's budget, $52,945.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is the Finance Committee budget, $101,200.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Okay, the next item is the total budget for the Finance Department, $1,173,951.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is Legal Services budget of $90,000.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is HR Personnel Board budget of $114,569.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next budget is the Town Clerk's budget of $235,207.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is Land Management budget,
Mr. Yule?
$126,335. Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Mrs. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is Memorial Hall budget, $87,018. Any discussion? Should we take a motion on this and then?
I was
do a
just
roll
going to
call?
ask the same
Move
thing.
to accept
Just move to
the
accept.
amount. Moves to accept the amount of $87,018.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I check.
All right, you want to take a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item on the agenda is Police Department budget, $2,627,680. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is EMS Fire Department budget, $1,070,888.99. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
second,
All right, roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is the EOC budget, $4,389. Do I hear a motion to approve?
so moved,
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
yes,
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
yes,
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is animal control budget, $80,980. Second, first, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
yes,
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is the DPW budget, $3,203,334. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
second,
All, roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
yes,
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is municipal utility budget of $420,000. Do I hear a motion to approve?
so moved,
Second,
Second.
And
roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
yes,
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is council on aging budget, $127,957. I hear a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
yes,
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is veteran service budget, $240,475. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
yes,
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Roll call. On the, pardon me, library budget, pardon me. Library budget, do I hear a motion? It's $508,720. 500, do I hear a motion? 508.
Make a motion.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
yes,
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Community center budget, $366,424. Do I hear a motion to approve?
so moved,
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
yes,
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Historical commission budget, $1,264.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
yes,
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next is celebration budget, $9,000. I have a question to the town manager on that. That's kind of a new item. I was just kind of questioning. Can you explain what you're envisioning on celebrations on on celebrations?
Sure.
We did that
I think
before.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think what we have been trying to do is combine the veterans parades, the Veterans Memorial Day, and Veterans Day luncheons, things that have traditionally sort of been separated, we put together. There were some adjustments made because of the fact that the Veterans Day celebrations were a little bit underfunded, but we made adjustments in some other areas. So we collectively are calling it celebrations.
I mean, it was something that was on the budget, but it was not something that we discussed, if you will, I mean, prior to tonight in any length. So I thought I'd bring it up. Everything else that we've approved so far has been discussed ad nauseum and been presented by the department heads. I know we're going through this quickly, but that was just one item that we really didn't touch on, so I thought I would tonight.
No problem.
So thank you for your, that information. So that said, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Aye, yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is the debt service budget, $1,376,493. No comments. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is employee benefits budget, $7,366,090. If there are any questions, if not, I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Mr.
roll call.
Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item on the budget is sewer enterprise budget, $499,015. And if I understand correctly, that's being offset by sewer fees. This is the water, the last two items. So if there's any comments or thoughts, if not, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Next item is water enterprise budget, $100,249. Again, this is offset by fees in the budget. Do I hear comments or thoughts? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Now, for the people that are out there listening to this, we went through this very quickly, but I want to remind everybody that we've had, I think, 7 or 8 meetings prior to tonight regarding the budget to the department head. So, and these numbers that we discussed at those meetings reflect what we've approved here tonight. There are no changes. They match dollar for dollar to what we discussed with the department heads prior to tonight. So, and we went through them quickly. I don't want anyone to think that we didn't have discussions prior to tonight on the official vote of these department budgets. But that's just wanted to make sure that's for the record that I say that so that people don't misinterpret what we just did. Do we need to go back now per the town manager and recommendation and prior the capital meeting and take a roll call on each one of these items? I'll question the town manager what we did. I think I referenced that we did it at the beginning of the meeting. You weren't here at the time, and we did it in mass. So we need to go through each item and take a roll call on each one of the capital items that we approved at our last meeting.
If you did them individually, the last meeting, I would say that you should ratify them individually. And I apologize again, only because it had been brought to our attention, and just so the committee knows that we had identified that prior, that it might be a problem, and it was an oversight. I'm talking about the roll call. We had reached out to a local reporter, but we didn't get a return call. And so I think it would behoove the committee. It's not too long of a list, especially because you took each item, we went through it. I think the chairman's done a good job in explaining that we had many meetings about this, had every department head in to discuss our capital improvement program. And you basically were ratifying the final decisions. So I would say that you've done your due diligence, and the last time if you took them, which I believe we went through individually, I would go through them individually again.
Okay. We should do that.
Need a motion.
Do we need a motion or just a roll call? Because we
We had a
already have a motion, like the first item, Roger, on the DPW road repairs for 500,000. Roger made the motion and.
Sure, if you want to explain that the motion had been, as long as everybody who's here, had been able to make the motion. If somebody wasn't here today, then I would, make a new motion. But I would, Mr. Chairman, I would just, if you have that recollection in front of you of who made the motion the last time, and the second, just.
We have it in the minute.
Okay, sorry.
It's in the minutes right here, and I'm looking at it.
Oh, okay, I can't see that. I apologize.
It's not
If
here,
you have
but-
that, I would just articulate who had made the motion and who had made the second. And then I will ask for a roll call. The motion had been made by Arthur, seconded by Joan, and now I'll ask for a roll call. That's fine to reaffirm that. As long as everybody who made the motion or seconded is here tonight, because you can only do it with the people who are here tonight.
I'm looking at it, and I think Samantha's name listed here is of making the motion or
Oh.
seconding the motion, unless I'm missing something.
Thank God.
So she's not here,
Yeah.
so I guess we're okay.
That's good.
Luck would have it.
And I apologize, I'm not apologizing for the fact that we're in a pandemic and everybody's trying to get used to remote technology. And there are many discrete details related to all kinds of executive orders that have been put into effect to allow us to do the people's work. And so in this regard, that's good if you have everybody present who did the motion in the second. And again, this is a formality. And, this committee has been above reproach for transparency, I will say that, and constantly has every department head in and scrutinizes and asks many questions. And unfortunately, I think sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle, but I appreciate all the effort that you put in. I know every department head has. And so, I apologize for the tediousness of the predicament that we find ourselves in, today. So having said that, if you have the motion and the second, and you can identify those persons, then just do the, say it and then just do the roll call.
Well, the first item on prior agenda of April the 8th under the capital improvement program was under taxation, to be raised by taxation, was the DPW road and repair restoration for 500,000. Motion was made by Roger Bacon, seconded by Mr. Gilspin, and the vote was 6-0 approved. Do I hear a roll call for tonight for that $500,000 request to be raised by taxation? You want to go call the roll, Trish?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glispin?
Yes.
Mr. Glispin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
The next items were to be raised by free cash. And the first item to be raised by free cash was the building improvement fund for $265,000. The motion was made by Mr. Bacon, seconded by Ms. Mazeka. The vote was 6-0 for the building improvement fund of $265,000. Do I want to take a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glispin?
Yes.
Votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
The next item was the Council on Aging ban for service expansion. Was for $12,893, which was our share of the grant that was awarded. Mr. Gilspin made the motion to accept. Mr. Bacon seconded, and it was 6-0 approval for the $12,893. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
The next item for free cash was the Department of Public Works fleet replacement, repair, and lease for $150,000. The motion was made by Ms. O'Neill to accept, seconded by Mr. Bacon. The vote was 6-0 in favor for $150,000. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
The next item was the Dpw facility office space rehab and lease. It was for $80,000, had to do with expansion for building department possible. And it was, motion was made by Mr. Gilspin and seconded by Ms. O'Neill. The vote was 6-0 for the $80,000 capital request. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
The next item out of free cash was the Department of Public Works Parks for the Green Bar restroom restoration for $35,000. The motion was made by Mr. Gilspin and seconded by Mr. Bacon. The vote was 6-0 for $35,000. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Okay, the next item was the Department of Public Works Parks Chafee Playground Rehab for $40,000. Motion was made by Mr. Bacon, seconded by Mr. Gilspin. The vote was 6-0 for $40,000. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Mazeka votes yes.
The next item was for fire and EMS, the self-contained breathing apparatus for the lease purchase for $137,500. The motion was made by Mr. Bacon, seconded by Ms. Mazeka. The vote was 6-0 for the $137,500 request. There, roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
The next item was the Oxford Community Center generator for $13,143, which would be our share of the FEMA grant for that purchase of that generator. The motion was made by Ms. Mazeka and seconded by Mr. Bacon. The vote was 6-0 for $13,143. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
The next item was police taser replacement for $25,662. The motion was made by Mr. Gilspin and seconded by Mr. O'Neill. The vote was 6-0 for the $25,662 purchase of new tasers. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
The next item was for the Oxford Public Schools math curriculum software for $126,000. Ms. Mazeka voted recommended, made the motion. Mr. Gilspin seconded. The vote was 6-0 for the $126,000 for the math software. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glisspin?
Yes.
Mr. Glisspin votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
The next item on the request from the Oxford High School and Middle School for new fiber network switches for $38,815. The motion was made by Ms. O'Neill, seconded by Mr. Gilspin. The vote was 6-0 for the $38,815 for the switches. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule.
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon.
yes,
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill.
Yes.
Miss O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman.
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Miss Mazeka.
yes,
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
The next item was for townwide branding and wayfair signage for $60,000. The motion was made by Mr. Gilspin, seconded by Mr. Wilkin. The vote was 6-0 for the $60,000 for wayfair signage. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule.
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon.
yes,
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill.
Yes.
Miss O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman.
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Miss Mazeka.
yes,
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
The next item was for the townwide green community local matching funds of $27,970 to match what the grant was going to be granted to town. The motion was made by Miss O'Neill, seconded by Miss Mazeka. The vote was 6-0 for the $27,970 matching. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule.
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon.
yes,
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill.
Yes.
Miss O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman.
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Miss Mazeka.
yes,
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
So that totaled out of free cash $1,011,983 in total for those items that we just approved.
Okay.
Roll call. Next item was the funding from the donation account. And the first item in that source of funds was the Department of Public Works purchase of a trash truck for $139,000. The motion was made by Mr. Bacon, seconded by Ms. O'Neill. The vote was 6-0 to recommend the purchase of the donation funds for the $139,000. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule.
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon.
yes,
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill.
Yes.
Miss O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman.
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Miss Mazeka.
yes,
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
The next item was about the Public Works, the demolition of the Johnson School Annex, $53,000 out of donation funds. Motion was made by Ms. Mazeka, seconded by Mr. Bacon. The vote was 6-0 for the $53,000. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule.
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon.
yes,
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill.
Yes.
Miss O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman.
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Miss Mazeka.
yes,
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
And that total of $192,000 to come out of the donation funds. The next fund was the Building Inspector Revolving Fund. The first item out of that fund request was for building improvement funds for $100,000. The motion was made by Ms. Mazeka, seconded by Mr. Bacon. The vote was 6-0 for $100,000 for the Building Improvement Fund. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule.
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon.
yes,
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill.
Yes.
Miss O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman.
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Miss Mazeka.
yes,
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
The next request out of the Building Revolving Fund was for shared vehicle inspections, shared vehicles to do inspections, was for $26,000. The motion was made by Ms. O'Neill, seconded by Mr. Bacon. The vote was 6-0. Do I hear a roll call on $26,000?
Mr. Yule.
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon.
yes,
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill.
Yes.
Miss O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman.
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Miss Mazeka.
yes,
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
That total $126,000 to come out of the Building Inspector Revolving Fund. The next source of funds was the FEMA Available Fund. And that, under that, there was an item for the Oxford Community Center for $46,857. The motion was made by Mr. Gilspin, seconded by Ms. O'Neill. The vote was 6-0 for the $46,857 for the generator at the community center. Roll call?
Mr. Yule.
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon.
yes,
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill.
Yes.
Miss O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman.
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Miss Mazeka.
yes,
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
That totaled the $46,857 to come out of the FEMA available funds. The next fund was Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund. There was a request made under that fund to pave North Cemetery for $85,000. The motion was made by Mr. Bacon, seconded by Ms. O'Neill. The vote was 6-0 for the $85,000 request to come out of the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund for paving. Roll call?
Mr. Yule.
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon.
yes,
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill.
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
That was the only item under professional care for the $85,000. The last item was out of the sewer enterprise retained earnings account. There was a request to do a feasibility study on expanding sewers in the town of Oxford. The request was for $40,000. The motion was made by Ms. O'Neill, seconded by Mr. Bacon. The vote was 6-0 to approve the $40,000 to come out of the sewer retained earnings fund. Do I hear a roll call?
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
And that was in effect, we approved for a total of $2,001,840 in capital requests. $1,840. $1,840. Hard to say. 2 million, but that was the total. $2,001,840 total. Okay. Now that ended the capital meeting.
Right.
We adjourned and went to our regular meeting. Do we need to do a roll call on anything here?
Oh.
The request, no. Approval of the minutes. Do we need a roll call on approval of the minutes, town manager?
She's not there. Oh, yes, she is.
Where'd you go? Oh.
This being kind of new ground, do we need to approve our minutes?
Yes, yes. Every vote you take in a remote participation requires a roll call while we're doing remote participation per the governor's executive order.
And I move we accept them as printed.
Okay, you did. The minute, no, I'm talking about the minutes of
The
the
minutes.
last meeting.
Oh, either one.
Yeah, I've got them here. Okay, so there were no further requests regarding capital requests. There was no motion. Ms. O'Neill made the motion to accept. Mr. Bacon seconded. It was 6-0 to approve the $2,001,840 in capital requests. Roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman? Mr. Glissman?
He's there.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Yes. Yes.
Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes.
Okay, the next item was to approve the minutes of the March 25th meeting. The motion was to accept the minutes as written. Was Mr. Glissman. One abstain, no, 0 no, and 1 abstain. Do you want to take a roll call on that? Don't know who wasn't here.
It was,
I don't remember who abstained.
I wasn't here.
Was it me?
Roger.
Roger, okay.
25th.
You have. to abstain. All
Oh,
right,
that's
I'm
right.
saying.
All right.
Right.
So, roll call,
Mr. Yule?
yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Ms. Mazeka?
Yes.
Ms. Mazeka votes yes. Oh, do I
Yeah, you put him down. as
Mr. Bacon?
abstaining, and
Abstain.
abstain? Okay.
and
Mr.
Samantha
Bacon
is not
abstains.
here to ratify the roll call. She was here.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And she's not here.
Okay.
Okay.
4-0. Okay.
Were there any other votes taken? No, motion to adjourn. So well, there was no further discussion after the town warrant, and we were talking about library and schools, different programs, community center, a discussion with the pandemic and the town annual meeting, what effect that could have. And that we're going to vote tonight or last week on the budget we just did, and go forward on approving the warrant. So there was a motion with no further business to adjourn the meeting at 7:40. Motion was made by Ms. Mazeka, seconded by Ms. O'Neill. The vote was 6-0. How can that be 6-0?
Yes, that was, we had 6 of us at that meeting.
Right, so roll call would be to adjourn, so that would be John, yes.
We're ratifying it, so we're all set.
So
Mr. Yule,
approve,
Mr. Bacon,
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Glistman,
Yes.
Mr. Vega.
Yes.
I'll vote yes.
okay, I think that covers the April 8th meeting and every
Yes.
action, every vote, every motion, right down to adjourn.
I think we're good.
Reverting back to where we are tonight. What else do we need to do here tonight? Presentation. We're here. Let's see.
Are we reviewing the town meeting warrant tonight? It's on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can do that. I'll do the next item.
What?
The town meeting warrant.
I thought that was on 4/29.
Yeah, it was going to be an upcoming date.
Okay. Just checking.
Mr. Chairman, it's the town manager, if I might, through you to the finance committee members, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, one of the executive orders that came from the state gave local communities latitude with regards to their annual town meeting dates and also their annual town meeting elections. I wanted an opportunity just to update this committee
Okay.
on where the Board of Selectmen have recently, in their last meeting, discussed this, both myself and our town clerk, particularly about the election with our town clerk. Just so that you know, what has happened is the Board of Selectmen basically have voted to not hold our town meeting, or to postpone it, actually is the word, to postpone our town meeting until a date to be determined. The executive order allows the town the latitude to postpone the date. And because we don't want to set a date that we might have to move again, this allows us to do it as long as we don't finalize or publish the warrant. Once we do that, then you have to set the date of the town meeting. So what we'd rather do is, even though we have drafted our warrant, prior to that in anticipation, we recognize the Board of Selectmen at the end may remove certain articles and not vote to put them through. And so you really won't have that complete warrant until it's finalized and approved. And we expect to have that, particularly when we have a better grasp of where we are in this pandemic and how we can move forward. Having said that, we did discuss some possible dates in the month of June, in particular, potentially June 24th, because our legal counsel is available. Mind you, that typically we've had our town meeting and 2 weeks later, we've had a town election. And so, our goal is definitely to try to have the town meeting before June 30th, because even though the executive order right now allows us to postpone our town meeting, if you go beyond June 30th, it would mean that the town would have to actually adopt a 1/12 budget. And that's something our finance director, myself, and this committee would not want the town to do, because it puts us in a very difficult position, particularly with the start of the new year, not to have new fiscal year, not to be able to have a fully operational budget. So whether it is the 24th, or whether, things look like they're, moving along and we can have it a little earlier, maybe on a Wednesday, the 17th, and as provided our legal counsel is also available, then we would look to have that, and then subsequently try to have that election, even the week afterwards on June 30th. So that's what we're moving towards for a target. As far as what the warrant looks like in the type of articles that we have, I can tell you generalized articles for normal financial transactions that take place every year annually are once again going to be appearing on the warrant. I don't know if Katie wants to speak to some of those in general, Obviously, you'll see the finer detail of what those will be as we get closer to the finalized warrant for publishing. But I don't know if you want to say anything, Katie, about that? The general articles.
I don't have anything in front of me, but I know I did send along information on all the financials to the board.
Okay.
Right.
I'd be happy to answer them. I just don't have in front
Well,
of me.
I don't think the specifics is yet what we want to discuss tonight anyway. But aside from the routine financial articles, there will be a bylaw, major bylaw article. The planning board did hold its hearing after you held your capital hearing related to large-scale solar mounted facilities. And it's a pretty extensive bylaw, and that will be on the warrant. We also have a number of other warrant articles that are related to the ability to do everything from apply municipal liens on the non-payment of specific fees and fines to the town, particularly related to our animal control facility. We also have the borrowing article that was actually approved to be on the ballot for a debt excluded article to repair our roads. As you know, many people, as we were talking and discussing the DPW project last year, we heard loud and clear at our forum that people were interested in trying to put together a comprehensive borrowing article that might be multi-faceted and tiered so that it would lessen the impact to the townspeople, but would get our roads really in a large scale way done. Oh, how cute.
Oh my God.
I had a larger dog. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, would be,
I see legs.
somebody trying to vote in Ms. McKenna's. I think he's putting up a paw to say aye. So we do have a number of things that will be in the warrant, and then at least that one will also be on the ballot. But that warrant will be finalized before we set that date. But once that's done, then we have to actually hold the town meeting. And we do have some logistics we have to work out. And we have to see where we are as a community based on the pandemic and whether both the surge and the number of cases that we have in this community will lend itself and be conducive enough for us to have a safe town meeting. Excuse me.
Question I was discussing prior to our calling the meeting to order, just in general, our thought that town-wide, both the school side of the budget, the town side of the budget, what impact the virus has had, both negatively and favorably on our budgets. I mean, I don't know if there's been any additional cost or savings for that matter, and how will we be addressing any of that going forward out of 20 into 21. I'm assuming if it's positive, it would go to free cash. If it's negative, how would we address it? That was a question I was going to throw out for new business discussion going forward as to what financial ramifications, both from the school side and the town side, this virus would have on the town going into 21.
I think I can start and maybe Katie can chime in. So, because we're right in the middle of this, have we incurred additional expenses? Yes. The Board of Selectmen had also, written and petitioned the Department of Revenue, with regards to the fact that we want to not only keep accurate spending, but if we have, because we're coming to the end of our fiscal year, if we were to have expenses that we did not have an ability to absorb, we need to be able to account for those kinds of things. So we were trying to anticipate the fact that we may have additional costs that, of course, when we were voting on our town meeting budget last year, we weren't anticipating it. And plus, because we're at the end of the fiscal year, obviously departments are living within their means, but they usually spend what they have, and whatever is not spent, obviously, we make sure to continue to return it to the bottom line as much as possible at the end of the year. Having said that, I can tell you unequivocally, we have had additional expenses, particularly in the areas for promoting public safety, bringing on additional manpower in our fire EMS department, making sure that we have not only protective equipment, but we've engaged in a very rigorous sanitizing and disinfecting protocol. All has required both outside contractors and inside additional man hours. So all of those things require us to not only observe those costs, but make sure that we put them together in a way that we are hoping for reimbursement from either the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency as well as through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, since we have both state and federal declarations. So we're keeping very close track. The only thing that I would say is that I think the concern is how quickly will some of that reimbursement hit our bottom line. And I think what both Katie and I are planning for is that we may need to absorb those costs for quite some time until we get that reimbursement. And I can tell you that even though we have incurred increased costs related to the manpower in the Board of Health, we have a Board of Health agent that we contracted with nowhere near the number of hours that he is now spending 7 days a week, from everything from observing every business in town for compliance to actually visiting households for positive COVID-19 cases. We also have recently entered into an intermunicipal agreement to try to share some costs with the town of Dudley. And I have spent this past weekend on Saturday, Sunday, and also the holiday working with onboarding 2 local nurses from our town that actually worked for the school. We put them through special training with the Department of Public Health. I thought it was very important to have local nurses really follow up with our residents in particular, and to be able to share that information very closely with our Board of Health and our first responders. So those are all additional. Some of those will be absorbed. I wrote 2 grants to the Department of Public Health. Both of them were funded for $10,000 apiece. That will help mitigate some of the public health costs that we're incurring, but it won't cover all of that. So as we get closer and as we see what both the state is doing to reimburse, we'll have a better picture of that. Now, having said that about, overall pandemic costs is one thing, but Katie and I have talked about this. We did meet with the chairman, Chairman Newell, and also the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. We reviewed our financials, and I don't know, Katie, if you want to talk a little bit about that, because obviously we're very mindful of wanting to present a conservative budget because no one knows how the state's receipts in the end are going to wind up, and how the revenue consensus figure for the state is going to move in a negative direction. But I think we've thought about a lot of different scenarios, and as we get closer to town meeting, I anticipate that our budget that we have now, even though you're voting, in the future for it, it's balanced. It represents the scenarios of conservative budgeting prior to this pandemic, and I do think that we'll make changes to it to reflect areas where we think we need to be even more conservative. But having said that, I'll let Katie talk a little bit about our financial trends and how we've approached the budget for next fiscal year, and how we're going to approach it as we get closer to town meeting.
A couple things, because I guess as to John's point and to some of your points, we've discussed the revenues for this fiscal year, and I think we're in good shape for this fiscal year for revenues. We've met that milestone and we'll keep going. So that's great, and that will hopefully help our free cash. As for our budgets for this year, I think I've mentioned in the past that there are a few budgets that are going to need some help from other budgets. So I'll be bringing some transfers in front of both the selectmen and the finance committee. But this is something that has nothing to do with COVID. It's just what's happened operationally this year, such as the overall finance budget is going to be under somewhere around 20 or 30,000, somewhere in that general range. And that's all due to different technology improvements that some were unexpected, some costs just weren't accounted for. So that's going to be coming in front of you, as well as a couple other budgets that are slightly going to be over. So that's just operationally within the year. And there are plenty of other budgets that have money in them. So it's not going to be an issue to cover that. And speaking a little bit more to what Jen had said about COVID expenses, right now we're tracking those so that once we get all the guidance that from the Department of Revenue, hopefully we'll be able to sweep those expenses out into a special fund awaiting a FEMA reimbursement. And that doesn't always cover all the expenses. So then at some point we'll either have to raise the difference on the recap, which means on our tax rate, having enough levy capacity to do that, or we'll have to just fund it, say an appropriation at a town meeting. So we're still waiting for guidance on all that. And then going into next year, the receipts have been very conservative over the last couple of years. That's why we've been able to have some good free cash figures, because you don't want to necessarily rely on all these receipts, because going into a recession, having come out of a recession, we know that these receipts are very volatile when it comes to that. So conservatively estimating that, it's easy to do so because of the way the Department of Revenue asks for this information on the recap sheet. So I think going into 21, we're in great shape for receipts. I'm not so sure about the state. I think that's what we're waiting on, is to hear what the state's going to do, but they don't even know what they're doing yet. So we could be coming back and voting some of these lines again. And that, that's a possibility, having a revote here. And I think that's all, unless you have any questions.
I have one.
On the warrant,
Given,
we're looking at 150,000 in stabilization. So, I mean, going into 21. So that's what's on the table right now. And that would come on part of your local receipts or free cash going into 21, I'm assuming.
The free cash, $250,000 will go into stabilization from free cash.
Right.
Yes.
But we're being conservative going into 21, and this is virus aside. This was prior virus, I should say. These when we put the warrant together, I think it was in the midst of the virus impacting us. So we're being conservative as we are and have been, is going to help us going forward while we wait for monies, how much we get or whatever. We should be able to, at some point, be held harmless, pretty much. I mean, it shouldn't be a significant impact to us, I would think, based on our past budgeting process and being conservatives as we have been going forward.
Certainly for receipts, state revenue, that's another story. So we'll have to kind of stay tuned for that.
is there a possibility that the figures on the cherry sheets can change because
Absolutely.
of everything that's happened?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Is it?
Very
Oh.
state revenue, yes, exactly.
Okay.
You got it.
And if we're lucky, we'll see them in July, but we've already had a town meeting in June. Usually they're late.
If that's the case and we haven't received a good indication and made changes before the town meeting, then we may come back in October to revote things.
Yeah, cherry sheets historically always been late. Now with the virus, I can assume that they're really going to be, we'll be waiting. But like you said,
Right.
October may be the time to have that discussion because of not knowing. But what we're
Right.
already proposing and what we're coming out of 20, going into 21, we're being conservative. We're already talking about putting on the warrant prior to the virus, 250,000 stabilization. And we know that the receipts going at the end of the year have been strong. And
Well, the other thing is that free cash
But-
is, that 250,000 from free cash, we know what the free cash figure was. It was certified. We know that number, that doesn't change unless we go June 30th. And then there's another consideration that they're trying to give us guidance on, that they might allow us to use retained earnings, because technically free cash expires June 30th. So that's a whole other story. But right now, from free cash, those are definite figures. We have those. It's not reliant on receipts.
Now, can we Obviously, I think to everybody, like the lottery revenues for the state are down,
Right.
most probably because of everything that's going on. Can we, what do I want to say? Amend or take a look at what the cherry sheet said we were going to get and look at it in a more realistic fashion to what we know today and say, yeah, okay, if they were going to give us, say, pick a number, $100,000, and we say, yeah, but the lottery revenues are off 50%. So can we change that in our budget now to say, well, we'll probably only get 50,000? Or is that something you do?
I think we want to wait.
Yeah, I would caution on that. Having been a former lawmaker, I will tell you that, I'm sure that every legislator is mindful of how important local aid is. It's the driving force of the annual budget for both the House and Senate and the governor. And as you know, whether it's, Chapter 70 assistant, Chapter 90 for our roads, so our education, our roads, and then the unrestricted government funding is very vital to us. And everybody knows that there are uncertainties right now. They are looking at their state collections. The state does have, a rainy day fund that's
true.
approaching $4 billion. Through 2 back-to-back recessions, and we had close to that same amount, if not more. And, but the recession lasted much longer. And we wound up using that money to help offset the cuts that were happening, particularly in local aid, to the greatest extent possible. I will share with you that the administration and finance secretary under the governor, along with the 2 House Ways and Means and Senate Ways and Means leadership team did have a actual hearing last Tuesday. And they talked about the decline in lottery. The treasurer for the Commonwealth talked about if they had online lottery, that in some states that actually went up because people are home and,
Have nothing else to do.
yeah. And, and there are some, concerns about that. There's also concerns about marijuana, excise taxes, and, people like myself.
Sales tax.
As a town, and meals tax, all of those. And so, those are the areas that are unknown for the state. But I would venture to guess that despite declines, that the local communities will remain a priority for the administration and for every lawmaker. How that pans out and what it looks like, there is no way to know at this point. That's why a lot of communities are going forward with their budgets. They're being conservative, like you are suggesting, Joan, and we will too. We will make modifications, and it may be on the town meeting floor, and or it may mean we come back at a subsequent meeting once the state has its figures more globally understood and voted upon. Whether that's a special town meeting late in the summer or whether that's October, we'll find out soon enough. But I think if the Finance Committee is mindful of all of this, it's our job to educate people that you don't rush to a conclusion before, and I'm not saying you suggest this, but I think we have to remember to the public is that, yes, it's a very unusual time, but there are steps in the process that have to come before we can make certain decisions. And then there are things we can do locally that build in the conservative figures that we have. I know that the chairman and the Board of Selectmen chairman and our finance director and myself, we actually went back all the way to 2008 and earlier, looking at our overall receipts trends and our revenues. And I can really tell you that we do budget very conservatively, despite the fact that the state aid has gone up in our revenues. As you know, as I came in the door as your town manager, I've been driving revenues to build into our system as much as possible. So, we feel good about that because it's not like we have been overspenders, and we have put money aside for rainy day. I know I kept chiming about that since I walked in the door. And this committee has been terrific in honoring us putting savings away. And I appreciate that. You've supported every effort that we have put on the books to put money away for our OPEB and to define a strategic funding plan for that. So, define a strategic funding plan for our capital, define a strategic funding plan for our stabilization. So all of those are going to come into play at some point. And I think already, we are mindful of it, and we know that we may need to make some necessary changes. But I think we are in good financial shape to be able to make those decisions wisely to the best interest of the people in this town. And hopefully, like I said, the state will also be mindful of how important those revenues are to us as well. And we'll try to stem what we need to have happen in order for not just the state to balance its figures, but for us to put forward a budget that meets the needs of the local community.
Thank you.
I know we've been very conservative in the past. The town manager indicated we went back to 2008, looked at it on local receipts. So the budget for 2021, what we had budgeted for local receipts based on that, looking back to 2008, I think prior to this virus, we've been very conservative. So there's some hope there that there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, regardless of what the state does, and I'm sure they will do something. So I think we should be fine as a community if we continue in the vein we've have in the past, so to speak. We've been conservative. We're putting money in, as town manager said, the open account. On the warrant is $250 to go in the stabilization account. We're putting money in that absentee fund, $50,000 for sick leave and pay for the town employees. We're doing all these things so nothing really comes out at us. I'm confident. My concern would not be 21 as much as it would be 22 to see if we ever, as a nation, as a state, come back to whatever norm is, so to speak, and go forward from that point. I think that's the bigger concern once the monies have all been allocated and spent, whatever the funds are, whoever steps up to the plate. And once that's been spent, what happens in 22? Are we okay? Are we better off? Are we where we were? I don't know. That's the big question, I think. 22, not 21. I think we're going to, between the federal government and the state, they're going to try to band-aid what they can as much as they can. And they do have a rainy day fund of almost $4 billion. So, but once that's gone, we're back to 22. Where are we? So if we hold course, basically doing what we're doing and being conservative, hopefully we'll be fine. That's no crystal ball there.
Yep.
Any questions? Any other thoughts on this?
Nope.
So what do we want to do then as far as the warrant? We want to wait. This should be our last meeting until when? I mean, what you as the town manager and you as the town treasurer want to do going forward with the warrant?
No, we can't do much. It's not finalized.
Not much.
Right. I think what we should do is we should discuss with you, Mr. Chairman, as we get closer to that date and finalizing the warrant so that you can actually set a meeting date to go through those articles and when they are finalized. So that way it's closer to the date. The townspeople will have the ability to understand what the warrant looks like. And it will also, I think, help continue to provide the citizens with the notion that we do have an upcoming town meeting. And so I would say that if we keep in close contact, and the finance director and myself and the Board of Selectmen chairman and your leadership here for the finance committee, that we will definitely be in close contact to provide you with what should be your next date to be able to look at this warrant as it is finalized. And I would say that will come closer as we get closer to the date for establishing the town meeting. And I don't expect us not to have that quite a bit in advance. I just think that we're too far in advance right now to be able to figure out what that means. And again, some of that some of those warrant articles in terms of the actual motions and things will probably likely get modified based on where we are, state's point of view for whether it's cherry sheets or things that we have to do because we think that we need to be even more conservative as we approach the town meeting. But I think we can definitely set those dates with you and the chairman of the Board of Selectmen and the finance director's input.
I just also like to add that, you know, those transfers will be coming up. So we'll probably have that added to whatever meeting we have next. It doesn't have to be till June even. We have May and June and even the first part of July.
Be the transfers and then after that or during that would be the warrant discussion.
Yeah, maybe we could even combine it into one meeting.
Numbers as far as what you need to transfer wise.
Yep.
Right. So it'll be transfers and then the warrant would be the next thing and then town meeting, of course.
Or we could have the transfers and the warrant the same night.
Yeah.
Transfers should be fairly quickly.
Sure. We'll do that. If you want to hold off until you have those numbers are settled, that you know what to the penny what you need to transfer to make that.
Exactly.
All right. Any comments from any other committee members? No? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Yule votes yes. Mr. Bacon?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon votes yes. Miss O'Neill?
Yes.
Miss O'Neill votes yes. Mr. Glissman?
Yes.
Mr. Glissman votes yes. Miss Mazeka?
Yes.
Miss Mazeka votes yes.
Thank you, everybody. It's been a
Adjourn
long
at
meeting.
7:20.